Hey, everybody, and welcome to the ComiCast. We thank you for joining us here for another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the beginning of the SCOTUS term, where we are on LGBTQ plus rights. The Supreme Court got started on Monday, so we'll be seeing new cases coming up, but we'll take a look at some of the past cases and maybe where it stands for the future. Of course, if you're listening to this, we're available on YouTube. You can actually watch us, which is kind of fun because we're going to be doing some stuff today that you might want to see because it's going to be interesting. Matt doesn't even know what I'm talking about yet. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. So if you're on the go, you can still listen to us. You don't have to watch us. So we provide many options for you.
Podcasting from the Lone Star State in Southern California, you're listening to the Coma Podcast with Cody and Matt.
Matt, so first of all, I want to start off with the thing. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm going to play it real quick, but it's kind of talking about gays in the wild and how we're kind of like rattlesnakes.
I saw this meme that says, when a gay person shakes their iced coffee, it's like a rattlesnake shaking its tail before it attacks. You know what?
So, do you think it's true?
So what's funny is I actually sent that meme to Clint saying a while over the summer because I saw it and I was like, what do you think? Because he's a manager. And yeah, it's totally true. I mean, if you watch some of our old videos, I notoriously have Starbucks with me, and you got your sometimes you have Starbucks or your ice water. And yeah, I can definitely.
I saw that and I was like, "Oh my god, that is so funny!" Because it's like,
can you text that to me? Because that's I will. That's really funny.
You like just swirl, shake, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is like a rattlesnake." Watch out, because when the gays start swirling the coffee, their iced coffee, something's up. You're gonna get told off. But I thought that was so funny when I saw it. I was like, "Oh my god, that is." I never thought about it, but it's so
I'm
true.
Not sitting. My legs are actually coiled, so I'm actually.
Oh, so you kind of are like a snake. Matt, they should have hired you to be in Harry Potter. Don't you know kind of all kinds of spells, how to make things grow? And yeah. Okay. So this is where we come to our icebreaker portion of the show. And I guess some of these things could help things grow. Matt has no idea what I'm talking about, but we're gonna play. So
this
a game.
season we went a totally different approach. So I usually am the one sideswiping Cody with literally anything and derailing anything the poor man has tried to line up for us. I'm like, well, I have an idea, and I just do it. Sorry, babe.
So you ready? We're gonna play dog toy or sex toy. Is this for carrying chewed on bones or dog chewing on something, or do you got to put something in it?
Well, I'm gonna guess. It looks like a sex toy to me.
Well, you are correct. This is a sex toy. You can switch it on, enjoy it for an interim period, hands-free, until such time you need to switch it off again. You'll be feeling exceptionally cheerful, and then afterwards probably quite sleepy. Wow, you got one. Yay! Okay, here we go. Is this a dog toy or a sex toy?
Dog toy.
You are right. It is a squeaky dog toy that your dog is going to find amusing and will fling it all over the place.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I really hope somebody just hears you and picks us up as, wants to sponsor us just for this.
Dog toy or sex toy?
I don't know. Is that
I
want to say sex toy because that looks like USB ports on the side.
You're correct. Your dog's not going to be pulling on this. This is for gentlemen to place around that certain special part. And, well, Matt, it's going to start growing pretty quickly. It does vibrate. That's why there is the charging ports. This will please gentlemen enormously. So, wow, you're just pretty good at this. Okay,
Oh.
we're up next. Dog toy or a sex toy? This is called the nubbins.
Oh. What's it called again?
The nubbins. Is the nubbins for you or for your dog?
Well, it looks mostly like a dog toy, but I'm gonna go with sex toy.
You're correct. It is a sex toy. Don't let your dog bite on that, Matt. But someone could bite on it. I don't know. This is not for his entertainment. It's for yours. Specifically, you can place this on your finger for investigative purposes.
Oh, it's smaller than I thought. Okay. I did not. Okay.
Well, it could be big. I mean, I guess you wouldn't stick it on your finger then, but yeah. Well, the nubbins. Should I get this for you?
I guess it was a name. It just really tossed me right off the edge.
Dog toy or a sex toy? This is called the ouch.
Well, I think it looks like a sex toy.
Is this perfect for solo play or an epic three-way tug-of-war? And that is according to the description. The description is perfect for solo play or epic three-way tug-of-war.
Oh.
Are you going to be pleased or is your dog going to be pleased? And it is true. 3 people could probably use this, right?
It looks like a sex toy.
Well, unfortunately, Matt, it is not. It is a dog toy. The 2/3 of your menage a trois are going to be rather disappointed because, again, it is a dog toy, not a sex toy. But here's the deal. I'm sure someone has used it as a sex toy because, well, there you go. And that is a dog toy or a sex toy.
I was not
like that
expecting that at all. Like, that is not usually the direction Cody goes with this.
We are spicing this up. Season 3, we're spicing it up. You never know what's gonna happen. But oh my god! So like, some
I
of
did
those
really good though.
you did pretty good. You only missed 1. We did 5. You missed only 1. I said that's pretty good. Yeah, these days with some of these dog toys though, like they can be kind of confusing. Like, there's that Kong toy. I didn't use that one because it said Kong on it, and I knew you would probably get that as a dog toy. But the Kong toy could be mistaken if you didn't know the brand. Could be mistaken as a butt plug. So, I guess if you're desperate, if you have a dog and you're desperate and you have nothing else.
Just, oh my god, just.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. This is. Matt, are you okay? Do you need an iced coffee?
No, I'm gonna go get one after this. I really am.
Well, I don't have coffee right now. I'm gonna get some later, hopefully. It's really hot outside, so cool down. But today we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court. It's an important topic that you should be aware about if you're in the LGBTQ community. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes that have happened with the Supreme Court, but it's important to be knowledgeable about it and to be aware of it because big things can change the way you live your lives, and especially for people in the trans community. We'll be talking about all of that coming up next. And we are back, and today we're talking about the beginning of the SCOTUS term. That began on Monday, and so they're going to be looking at cases and seeing what they're going to be taking up for this session. Of course, in the past, we had marriage equality happen because of a decision that was made by the Supreme Court, which was a huge decision, actually, Matt. It happened on my birthday, like all those handful of years ago, which was kind of like a great birthday present. But we've seen that the SCOTUS has changed over time. Former President Trump was able to put 2 people on the court, and that has kind of tip the balance towards a little bit more conservative viewpoints. Now, this past session, they didn't really rule on any major cases affecting the LGBTQ community. They kind of ruled around them or let things go back to lower courts. Now, the future, though, is what we need to be looking at. And this could be, I think, a big play on trans rights happening, I think, in the next few sessions. Now, one of those cases was the Supreme Court decided not to take up a school district's appeal in the Gloucester County School Board versus Gavin Grimm. Now, that's in which a federal appeals court ruled that a Virginia school district violated civil rights law when it barred transgender students from using restrooms that match their gender. Now, while that's not a ruling on the specific merits of the issue, it does leave in place not only the lower court's trans-affirming rule in Gavin's Grimm case. That means that school districts throughout those 11 states that covered by those appeal courts must now respect a student's gender and allow them to use restrooms and locker rooms that match their gender. Gavin's case is the third time in 3 years that the Supreme Court has declined to take up a case involving disputes over whether trans students could use restrooms that match who they are. Now, when I think about this case, Matt, it's like they've ruled on it 3 times, but not really. They've let it go back to the lower courts. But I feel like it's only a matter of time that it's either going to go one way where like trans rights and the community at large, the public, have better feelings towards trans individuals, and so the court rules a certain way. Or, as we know, the court is very conservative, and they could be waiting a bit so it doesn't seem like they're just like right off the bat trying to switch things up.
Right.
I think it's a tough case because we talk about trans rights, and that's one thing within the LGBTQ community that I feel like sometimes people within the community don't always like take up for people who are trans.
They don't.
There's
a whole movement of there's an entire movement of people called the LGB Alliance, where they specifically toss out trans, and they've gone so far as when they have managed to get their stupid asses back on Twitter, they'll go through and block. I've been blocked by them. I don't know how many times. I've never even talked to them. They'll go through and basically block everybody with like pronouns or something in their profile that they know is like a red flag to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, but they don't believe in trans rights and they actively campaign against them. I'm like, you do know that in 2 seconds they would turn around and knife you, right? Like, you do realize we are at the mercy of the majority of our countries. Like, we are never safe. We're never going to be safe, like, ever. I don't feel like we ever truly will be. And there's also a loud push about like, well, you're doing fine there, this country has it worse. Yes, just because it's better here doesn't mean that's where we stop. We should always be pushing, because if we stop, then places where people are being thrown off buildings and murdered for it, they'll never get anywhere if they don't see something. Somebody has to. It should never stop. But yeah, I see. You're right.
That's one of the things if you're listening to this, you might be like, well, there's nothing I can do. It's the Supreme Court. The people who are installed in the Supreme Court are there for life. We don't know if there's going to be a vacancy in this next little while. But even if there was, it's not going to change the makeup of the court unless something dramatic happens. And you're like, well, what can I do? Well, I think the most important thing to do is to look at people who are involved in your state politics, local politics. That's where some changes can be made. So obviously, if say the Supreme Court rules that people could be discriminated on these trans rights, that doesn't mean that every single state and city is going to now discriminate against people in the trans community. So if you're active in your community and you're active in your trying to get politicians elected in your own state houses that are there for states' rights, that's what's important, because then those states are the ones who are going to make those rulings or laws within those specific states, and then be allowed to either go forward with discrimination or not, depending on what the Supreme Court
Right.
does. So it's not all lost. You know, you can work in your community to develop and hopefully change, and that is the way we have to do it. Because many, when we talked about politics, these state houses are really largely in many states very conservative, and that's because of gerrymandering and a whole list of other things. And so you really have to actively work to help change those situations. And when there is an easy win, you need to get out there. You need to vote. You know, don't I think there's a time sometimes when people are not active in politics. They take for granted that someone's going to win, or they take for granted that something's going to be that way forever. Like you were saying that, oh, well, it's legal now for gays to get married. I don't care about anything else now. But again,
This is
that
and the same. A lot of
complacency.
times, the same people saying that didn't even vote for us to have rights in the first place. We have them, and you voted for all the people that voted against us. Oh, well, you have rights now. Yeah, despite your best efforts. Thanks, Dick. You know,
Yeah.
like
So there's two other cases. There were non-discrimination laws that are at risk. Now the court, in terms of context of whether a government contractor, in this case it was a foster care agency, or a business, a flower shop, can violate non-discrimination law when they have a religious justification for the discrimination. Now, the stakes are enormous because the constitutional right to discriminate could potentially override every non-discrimination law in the entire country. Now, that would be obviously a catastrophic situation, and it would basically give a jail-free card to anyone who just would assert some kind of religious basis for discriminating against someone, whether it's for housing, workplace, healthcare, the list goes on, and that would obviously be horrible. Now, in the Fulton versus Philadelphia, the court considered where a religious affiliated foster care agency had a constitutional right to override the non-discrimination requirement in its contract with the city to evaluate prospective foster parents. Now, the good news in that was, for the second time in 3 years, the Supreme Court refused to rule that there is a constitutional right to discriminate. The bad news was, though, the court issued a narrow decision with the change in makeup of the court. And that doesn't bode well for the future, obviously, because now it's not a wide majority. It's a very narrow majority that it wasn't ruled on in the way that we would want. And then the other case was the flower shop, Arlenes Flower versus Washington State. Now, that's where the Washington Supreme Court unanimously ruled that a flower shop's religious objection to a same-sex couple getting married didn't give it a right to refuse them to sell flowers for their wedding. The U.S. Supreme Court denied review in Arlene's flower case. Of course, that doesn't mean they ruled on it, because if they would have taken it up, they could have ruled in favor of the flower shop. They just made the decision not to rule on it during that session. And that could be multiple reasons. They maybe already had enough cases and they couldn't take up this case, or they were like, oh, again, we'll let this wait out. But we must look at the Supreme Court. It's very profoundly conservative now. And at any point, it's ready to undermine some of the nation's civil rights laws for the future. And I wouldn't even say it's just some of these LGBTQ cases. Obviously, Roe versus Wade is a big topic of discussion that could be overturned in the future. And I think when you look at the
right.
Supreme Court,
Now they could just, like you said with these earlier cases, the ruling is to not make a ruling, to say no, because if a lot of people may not realize, if you don't realize, the Supreme Court do not bring up them to us. They interpret what's brought to them, so their personal beliefs do not. A fair judge is, and like part of their oath and everything they say is to say that their personal beliefs may not indicate their rulings and reflections. It's like a lot of people will say that voted for gay marriage that said, well, I'm this religion, however, my personal, I feel that, like they separate one, it's kind of like separating church and state. So, you'll find that people that are like, whatever happens in their belief system, if they believe there's an afterlife, and they're like, well, whatever whatever their life is here, that's not me to judge. I'm not here to police them. I'm here to just be. And they vote for more of the equality and say that's their decision. Let them live their life as they are. So the Supreme Court's going to get these cases, and them declining to review it leaves it more up to the states themselves to individually make the call, which has its pros and cons. Like, yes, we want to be recognized legally. Like, we want that. But at the same time, if it's really shaky, and sometimes the victory is that they weren't able to rule. So yeah, its opponents are going to continue running on that, and rallying up their bases and all that little hatred. And, but we can't, once it's there, we can't change what's going to happen. They're going to do what they're going to do. But like Cody said, whatever ruling, if they just allow the discrimination, it doesn't mean that there's a magic on switch for all these laws. And it doesn't mean that it'll go quietly into the dark. It'll mean that they made that ruling based on the evidence presented to them that they interpret. That doesn't change somebody else from bringing something up again to protect. Because, I think one of the things that has largely gotten us to even as far as we've gotten is that our whole shtick of the states is that, or at least what we promote to the world, that we are so diverse and that we accept diversity, and that is our strength. I will always believe that diversity is a strength. 10 of the same personality types don't make a good team, so why, same thing. But that's pretty much my thoughts on it too. There's not really a lot to say about that. We just kind of have to, we'll know soon. And of course, once we have updates, we'll of course share them. We'll talk about them. And we definitely invite you to share your opinions, your thoughts, your knowledge. We'd love to hear. I'm not a constitutional law expert, we're just chatting about things that have come up.
Yeah. And like if you've been with us at any point in this show, especially last year during the election, we're big proponents of voting, being involved in your community, being involved if you can in politics. You may not personally want to run for any political office, but you can always be there to help, emails, phone calls, door to door. There's lots of options for you to participate in the process. And that's an important part. I think sometimes,
just maintaining a positive attitude about voting, promoting that, I think several celebrities, did a really good thing. Yes, sometimes we want people to champion stop voting for people that are trying to have others killed. Duh. But at the same time, a lot of times the people that don't vote are the ones that could swing it one direction or the other, especially in our country. Other countries make fun of us so much because we don't vote. That's why we're literally I was reading about how our extreme left is considered mostly center in most of the world in other countries, because of our healthcare and education and how we privatize things. And, and those are things that we just sit and watch and we're like, oh no, millennials and Gen Z are very, very strong. And a lot of Gen Z is able to vote now. And that's what's important. But I grew up this way. I grew up totally it doesn't matter what I do because it doesn't count. I've learned in the last 3 or 4 election cycles that it absolutely counts. It absolutely matters. Look at the work Stacey Abrams did in Georgia. Georgia of all places.
I was gonna say that. I was like, I feel like a lot of people who are living in states that they feel like are totally opposite of their political views, Texas, Georgia, etc., Florida. The people on the left may sit out. They're like, oh well, we're never gonna change that state. The state's always gonna be conservative. But as we saw in Georgia, it is totally possible for that to happen.
And it would have been more possible
and you have to
in
get
Texas
out
because of our indicted Attorney General Ken Paxton, who on camera admitted blocking voting. So yeah, super frustrating. He made it harder to vote by mail, which during the pandemic, at the height of it, when we were sending in votes, David and I voted by mail, which we were able to, but we did it, day one. I mean, it's the moment we could request everything, we did. And of course, once it was being seen how many people were requesting vote by mail, then things started shutting down. They closed our precinct. We weren't even able to vote at our precinct recently. We had to go somewhere else, and they didn't tell us it was shut down. We literally drove there and like, oh, it's over here and over there, and it's a big pain in the ass to get to. And like, with no warning, we looked it up before we even left. And
wow. Yeah, I think, things like that are happening. And the important thing is, if they do happen to you, don't get frustrated. Try, if you're able to still seek out those opportunities to vote and to be involved, to help change that. Because, I mean, it's these states that are putting in a lot of religious exemptions to non-discrimination laws and bills. And so, we got to fight at the local level and the state levels to prevent them from even doing things like that, so that it never even gets up to the Supreme Court. Obviously, we did talk about in a previous podcast, and we'll put it in the show notes on our website or in our email that you can subscribe to, where we talk about the need for people in the LGBTQ community to get involved in politics, and how there's a certain number that has been talked about that we need to have this number of LGBTQ people in politics to make sure that we do have change. Because if you are part of the community, you understand the need for certain things, whereas someone who's not may not fully understand the ramifications of certain things that may be in certain laws. And that's just an important thing. But we thought it was just important to just kind of like highlight some of the things that had recently happened in the past session of the Supreme Court. And obviously, Supreme Court is in full session now for the fall. We'll see what cases they come up with. And of course, like Matt said, we'll keep you updated on those on our website and Twitter and all of our social media. And if we need to, we'll jump on and talk about some specific case if it's like a big one that's really affecting us in the LGBTQ community, which I'm sure there will be something because the conservative right is always trying to, right now it seems, just tear down any potential trans rights that are there. And again, like Matt said, they won't stop there.
Wild.
Because then they'll come back over for just
everybody. They always come back.
Everybody.
Gays, like, every time.
So we'll leave it at that. And we thank you for joining us again for this episode. And we will see you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is not possible without you guys.